Hello. Happy Tuesday. Hope everybody's doing well today. I jumped on just a minute or so early, so I'm just going to hang out for a second until people jump on. We are going to be frosting a naked cake today. So I love naked cakes. Woo woo. So really, a naked cake is, hey Kaylee, how are you? Miss you. I've got Instagram and Facebook people, so I'm super excited. One thing I love about this is I get to kind of talk to people virtually. I guess we all are these days. But, you know, sometimes people from your past and kind of hop on, and so it's pretty cool. So welcome, everybody. Just kind of talking a little until people jump on. We are going to be doing a naked cake today and have some fun with it. So, yeah, if you guys are on, feel free to say hi, all that kind of stuff, and you know, let me know that you're here. And hey, Angie, how's it going? So anyway, naked cakes. Naked cakes are basically a crumb coat cake. Maybe smoothed out a little bit better because you're obviously not going to be covering it up. This is a really popular trend right now, and I personally love it because, you know, don't tell anybody, but I don't love frosting as much as I should, maybe, being in the profession that I'm in. But I like a little frosting to go with my big piece of cake. So I love them. Plus, they have a real rustic look to them, and they're just kind of cool. You see a lot of weddings that are doing that these days. So what I have for today for my supplies, I have my cake board that I'm going to be putting my cake on. You can use something like this. You can use a platter, whatever it is you've got. If you've got a cake stand, feel free to use that. I have a couple of spatulas. I've got an extra large one. Sometimes I typically use this one for bigger cakes, like 8-inch, 9-inch cakes. It's kind of helps to spread the big size. But I baked off a 6-inch cake, so I like to use my little guy. It's just whatever you prefer. You can also use a knife if that's all you have. That's perfectly fine. I have my vanilla buttercream frosting that I made this morning. And what else do I have? I have my scrapers. What's a naked cake mean? A naked cake means a cake that when you fill the layers and then you go around and smooth the outside with a thin coating of frosting. It's also, that's what is also referred to as a crumb coat. But a lot of people in the industry, or, you know, the trend, whatever, on Pinterest, whatever you see, a lot of people just actually do a crumb coat, which is meant to, you frost a thin layer of frosting before putting all the rest of your frosting on. You do that to seal the crumbs, so that when you go to spread your thick layer later, you're not dragging a whole bunch of crumbs in your frosting. I mean, we've all done that, and how frustrating does that get, you know? So a naked cake means basically naked from all the frosting. So I've got my scrapers. I have my metal one and my acrylic one, and see which one I end up using. I usually interchange them. I do a little bit of both. I also, just to, you know, spice things up a bit, we're going to do this with a vanilla cake, the same cake we baked off yesterday. And are we supposed to have our icing made already? Yeah, if you've got it already, that's awesome. If not, you can watch this video and then make it, and then you take notes, and then you can do it later. So if you need a recipe, I'm happy to share. And always get crumbs in my frosting. It's so annoying. So a crumb coat will help you with that. And this will actually just show you what a crumb coat looks like. And then you basically, when you have a crumb coat cake, you put it back in like the fridge to set up for a little bit, 20 minutes to an hour. It can be overnight if you want, but just basically that kind of locks in those crumbs. So to just kind of make things a little bit extra fun, we're going to do, yeah, we have not made the frosting yet. Okay, that's fine. If you haven't made the frosting yet, you can just watch this video and take notes, and then watch it again when you have your frosting. So I happen to have a little bit of raspberry compote that I made. This is basically cooked down raspberries with sugar, and you can use it to add to any kind of frosting. You can also use it as a filling for your cake. So I am going to put this in the middle, just to show you another thing that you can do in your frosting with the cake. Okay, so let's get started. So like I said, I have my little thing. I'm going to put just a little bit of buttercream on my cake board so that my cake base will stick. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting it. It's going to, if you take your cake and you put it on here and there's nothing on it, especially if it's any kind of acrylic, metal, anything, it's going to slide. So just put a little bit, whatever base, board, platter, whatever you're using, just put a little smattering in the middle. Doesn't have to be a lot, like half a teaspoon. It doesn't have to be a lot. You really, it's not about like gluing it down, but this is enough to glue, if you guys can see that. I don't know, the lighting in here isn't always so great. So I'm going to take my first cake layer, and I'm just going to stick it right in the middle of my cake board. I just like to push down a little, just to, you know, just to help it, just a little. So, okay. And now I'm going to take a little bit of my frosting. So right now that's probably about a half cup. And I'm going to put a little bit more on, but that's, you know, I usually put, depending on how thick of a layer you want, I usually put about 3/4 of a cup to a cup of frosting, because I like to have the thick layers because I like my cakes tall. And then I'm just going to start spreading this gently around. Again, you don't have to force this. And you want kind of an even layer. And you don't want to dig in this, because as you dig, you're going to drag some of those crumbs, which is really more problematic because it gets in the frosting that you're spreading, and then you might put it in where your frosting, the rest of your frosting is, and then you have crumbs all over. So you just kind of want to do this lightly. Okay, so I've got a pretty good thick layer right there. So I'm going to show you what I do to put a filling in. I actually kind of carve out a little bit in the middle. So you just take the end of your knife or your spatula and just kind of scoop out a little bit. And you want to have about an inch border, 1/2 inch to 1 inch border, depending on your cake, so that your filling doesn't leak. Because sometimes that's annoying, especially if it's like chocolate or something really dark. So that is what that looks like. If you can see this lighting, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a nice dip in there. Okay. And then I'm going to fill it with a couple of little teaspoons of my raspberry filling. You could use, if you have jam in the fridge, not jelly, I wouldn't recommend jelly, but if you have like some kind of fruit preserve, you could fill it. You could fill this with chocolate. You could fill it with caramel. You could fill it with a lemon curd. Lemon curd you can actually buy by the jar at the supermarket if you don't want to make it. And it's just kind of a nice flavor component that you can add to your cake. Especially if people like a little bit of texture in their cake, or they like a little bit of different flavors, or they like a little bit of lemon, but they don't want a lot. This is kind of how you can add some flavors to your standard cake. Okay? So with that, that's what this looks like. And you can see here, there's still, I didn't fill it all the way to the top. There's still kind of an edge of the frosting around it, so that will kind of help keep that filling stay put, okay? So then I'm going to take my next layer, right? And I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to set it down. And I flip it over because this is the flat side, right? Because it was baked on the bottom of the pan. That was completely flat. And then I'm just going to flip it and lay it on top. And then I like to kind of come down and get not a bird's eye view, but a level eye view of the evenness. And sometimes I just need to kind of close, you know, just barely shift it so that it's as upright as possible, okay? Okay. And something else I forgot to mention, you see a lot of times like on videos and stuff, people will kind of dab something on the cake. And what they're doing is they're adding what's called simple syrup, which is equal measures of sugar and water cooked together. And then that kind of helps to retain some moisture. I actually happen to have some lemon simple syrup. So again, this is just adding another component to your cake that can add just a little hint of flavor. If you didn't already know, I love flavor. I love playing with flavor. I love adding complexities to it. And you don't have to do this. You could add just plain simple syrup, which would be equal parts sugar, water, boiled down until all the sugar is dissolved. You don't want to cook it any further because then that turns into caramel. But if you wanted to add lemon to this, you would actually cook a few pieces of lemon, slice it, and just let it cook in with the sugar and the water, and then strain the lemon pieces out. So I'm just going to lightly, kind of put this in here. And so with this and the raspberry filling, you kind of get a very light lemon raspberry cake, okay? So you don't want to saturate, you don't want to like dump a whole bunch in, you just want a little bit. That also helps to kind of retain moisture with your cake. Some cakes that you make, you'll find, like the one I was demoing last week, it's a really crumbly cake. It was kind of heavy and dense, and it was delicious, but it wasn't very moist. So people, have different flavor, preferences and stuff. But if you wanted to add a little simple syrup to that, that would kind of help bring a little bit of that moisture back. So again, I'm going to take another. I'm going to do, since I'm putting a filling in, I'm only going to do about a 1/2 to 3/4 cup of frosting. And again, I'm just gently smoothing it out. And I just want to go all the way to the edge and make sure that I have as even of a coating as possible. And you can just kind of go around. This is very cathartic for me. Every time I do this, I love just kind of spreading the frosting on. Have some music, get lost in it. Hi from Kelsey. Hi, Kelsey. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of dip the tip of this spatula. I'm going to go in about 1 inch, right? And then I'm just going to dip and scoop. And then I get a little bit. I'm going to go around again. So that you have basically, it's like a moat. You know what I mean? You've got a little, little moat-o filling. Moat-o jam. All right. So I'm going to take my raspberry preserves. I'm going to put a couple spoonfuls in. Again, you don't want to over flood this with a lot of filling because then it will leak. It'll go through your barrier of frosting. And it's happened to me, and it just makes for a messy outer layer. And maybe you intended for that messy kind of leak out, which it actually does tend to look kind of cool. But if you didn't, it can be really aggravating. So, all right. Last layer. So if you guys only had 2, just hold tight for like a hot minute while I put the last layer on. And what I do on this last layer, actually, if you have 2, you probably didn't want to do this part. I'm sorry, I should have said that before. So this is for a 3-layer cake. If you have a 2-layer cake and you do jam in the middle, you only do it in between the 2 layers. So, sorry, I got a little ahead of myself there. But you want to do the same thing. You want to plop this down. It's the problem with live videos. I can't go back and edit. Oops. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of shift. This looks pretty good. These cake layers came out fairly even, which makes me happy. All right, cool. And I'm gonna just add one more little bit of simple syrup to my top layer. Okay, now I'm going to take my frosting. I'm going to put about, this is probably going to be about a cup of frosting on top. And, oh, hi Lainey. So good to see you. Are you demoing every day? You're going to have a lot of yummy treats in your house. Yeah, no kidding, Michelle. Yes, I am demoing every day. At least I'm demoing different things. So, you know, when my waistline gets bigger, at least it's with yummy different variations of treats. So, yes, I am demoing the cake today. I'm going to be doing scones tomorrow. I'm going to be doing cupcake decorating on Thursday. And then we're going to bake cookies on Friday. So, yeah, it's given me something to do, which is awesome. But then I'm like, I have all these sweets. What am I going to do? So, all right. So I'm going to just do what I did before and gently spread my frosting. Now, since this is the crumb coat or the naked cake, what we're going to end up getting is a very thin layer of frosting all the way around so that you're actually going to see the cake layers through the frosting. That's how you can detect a naked cake. Okay, so spread this out. I like to kind of spread it all the way to the edge and let it kind of go out so that when I go to frost the sides of my cake, it's kind of right there waiting for me. And I am spreading this fairly thin because I don't want that much frosting on top. So now I'm going to start going down the sides. And again, do this lightly with this palette knife. You kind of just use your fingers. You don't have to go, if you go heavy, you're already going to get crumbs that are pulling out because of the natural way of cakes. But if you have it light, you're going to minimize how many crumbs you get on your spatula. And you'll probably see a few crumbs in your frosting. That's perfectly normal. But you want to kind of go and just lightly go over. And if you see right there, okay, if you see that spot, I was just starting to go and the frosting was already starting to pull away because that's what it does sometimes. So instead of fighting it, I'm just going to take a little bit extra frosting on the other side and kind of cover it again instead of fighting it, because the more you fight it, you're going to pull and you're going to make a bigger hole, and then you're going to drag more crumbs across, which just ends up getting messy and aggravating. So, and it happens a lot too on the edge of the cake when you're going down, because that's obviously a turn-off point. That's kind of where a lot of the tension is when you're spreading your frosting. So I'm just going to go around and just lightly spread. We're gonna smooth it out with the spreader or this guy in just a minute. So don't worry about it being even or perfect or anything like that. Really, all you're trying to do is just cover your cake as lightly as you can. Okay. And then once you kind of get, I kind of just go like 1 inch to 2 inches at a time and then just kind of work my way down, especially when you're just starting. Don't feel like you have to do it the way you see all the YouTube videos and the Instagram videos, because first of all, they've been doing it a long time, and second of all, it's edited to show a little quicker. Just take your time with it. I mean, all we got is time right now, right? So now you can see, maybe, I don't know if you can see that area, some of the crumbs are starting to kind of show through. So I'm just going to keep on going just to demonstrate that your crumbs will come through. And I'm just going to go down a little bit further. And now I have, in order, I don't have any crumbs on my offset right now. But just to make sure I don't, I'm just going to scoop a little from my bowl and then put it on my palette knife. Offset spatula, same difference, they're interchangeable names. And just a little bit more. And then again, I'm just going to kind of put it on here, and I'm going to stick it on to where there's already frosting so that kind of adheres it, and then you can work downward. Okay? If you guys have questions, please do not hesitate to ask. But I just kind of stuck it right on where the frosting already was, and I'm just going to keep on going. Okay. So now I'm going to do that again. Take a little scoop from my frosting and that's in the bowl. Add it to my palette knife. Kind of just put it on the frosting that's there. And now I'm starting to finally get down to the bottom. Okay. I'm just going to keep on going. We're almost there. Okay. Almost there, almost there, almost there. It's okay to put extra amounts on right now because we're going to scrape it all off once we've frosted everything. It's sometimes better to have a little bit more than to have a little bit less. What's the best type of cake for these frosted cakes? This is a classic butter cake. Ronald McDonald houses are struggling to get food for families staying there. Oh, that's a great idea, Michelle. Thank you. I'll look into that. Lisa, sorry. This is a butter cake, so it's got butter, sugar. So it's a pretty sturdy cake. Sponge cakes are going to be a little bit harder because they're so delicate. But I would say that if you've got kind of a cake that has the flour and the structure, then you can use this kind of buttercream. It'll be fine. Okay, so I've got everything around, right? So I'm just going to kind of do a gentle smooth before I take my scraper. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to take my clear one because I like to work with it. It's taller than the cake, so that means that I can get the whole thing. But you're also going to be able to see the frosting kind of come through, which I discovered last week, which is kind of cool. Okay, so you want to kind of put it basically level straight against your cake, okay? And then you're just going to pull toward you. And then you want to, as you pull, you're kind of angling your scraper a little bit more. So it's like I guess it's about a 30-degree angle. Man, math, geometrical percentage degree things. Not me, but it's, if this is 90 and this is 45, you want it at a 45, maybe a little bit less than a 45-degree angle. And you just want to go around again. And since this is a naked cake, excuse me, we are going to scrape quite a bit of this frosting off. Okay. I think 1 or 2 more rounds of this. And we will be, well, maybe a few more rounds of this. Since I put quite a bit of frosting on, it's going to take It's going to take a few turns to get through, but I can already start to see the cake through here. And you can kind of see where it's coming through, but we really want the cake inside to pop out. So let's do another round and see where we get. Okay. This is sometimes when I switch, because sometimes my scrapers just work differently. So this one has a thinner blade, so yeah, this is able to get some of that frosting off. So you can kind of see now we're starting to get, now we're getting naked. Okay. All right. Yeah, I put a lot of frosting on here, so hopefully you like watching the scraping go by. We're getting there. We're almost there. I'm still getting quite a bit of frosting on my scraper, so that tells me that I definitely had a lot. I mean, that's like 7 or 8 times around, and I still have, you know, a good tablespoon or so frosting coming off. So, get off. All right. It also kind of shows you like some parts of the cake where you put heavier amounts on than others. Which we all do. So, all right. Cool. All right. So you guys are starting to understand a little bit the thin layer of frosting and how that looks on a cake. This is also known as the crumb coat, but because you want to show this off as your cake, you're going to have it a little bit, just a little bit smoother than what you would. I wouldn't be working this hard for a crumb coat cake if I was already going to put a lot more frosting on it. So a naked cake just needs a little bit more love and attention than what you would be doing if you're just putting a crumb coat on. But this is a great exercise in showing you how you can crumb coat your cake. And then what you would do after this is you would stick it in the fridge for, depends on a lot of factors, but a minimum of 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I actually, if I can do it, it just depends, but I like to keep it in there for about an hour, especially when I have fillings, like I put that raspberry filling in the middle, because your cake is going to shift, right? Laws of gravity. Things are going to shift, things are going to they have to work themselves out, so you want the fridge time to help keep everything in line, and then also not leak and spill out, and because it's going to settle a bit. So at least 30 minutes if you've already if it's not too hot outside, if it's not too humid, if you've already frozen your cakes and you're doing this, that's going to kind of help to set all that stuff quicker in the fridge. If it's a room temperature cake, if it's warm outside, all those things, at least an hour. So okay, so then I'm going to do the top. And I have to give a shout out to my dear friend, Megan at Classic Cakes, who gave me a little tip on how to make this a little bit better. I usually go from the top, but unless it's like straight down and you can see over the edge, you might not actually see where it's going. So she kind of helped me to realize, start it from the side. And you basically just want to you see all this excess frosting, right? You're just going to take it and you're going to lightly, like you don't need to do a lot of force here, lightly drag it off, okay? And kind of rotate it, lightly drag. And again, if you go real light and you're not getting a lot of frosting on, then you can just keep going around and around until you get it. I mean, this like anything takes practice and skill. So just kind of go with it until you get the feel. Just like skill and practice, it's also about feel. So I still have to practice this. This is not something that just happens, and it just takes time, and it might not be as perfectly smooth as you want, and we can definitely do a video on all the hacks you can do to make things look a little bit smoother, which, you know, I do those things because sometimes you just want to get it done, you know. So I am almost done with this. Just kind of getting some of the angles that I missed the first time. And I'm dragging crumbs around, which is perfectly what it's supposed to be. You just, that's part of the naked cake, is that the crumbs are going to be showing through. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm just going to go around one more time, just to get a little excess, just because I really want that. I just really want that cake to come through. I want you to see that. I want you to see the cake in all its naked glory. Okay. This looks great. I'm very excited with how this is turning out. All right. And then just you want to kind of, maybe if you've got a little excess on the top, you can kind of just go over it. And it's just, I mean, it's tiny, tiny amounts, so it's not a lot. But it just helps to smooth out your cake. Okay. Now, as an added bonus, I'm going to show you something you can do with ingredients you already have. Okay. Yay? We happy? We good? Oh, there's a little extra. You can certainly present this cake like this, and you know, on a platter. I mean, simple elegance, right? This is absolutely beautifully simple elegance. You could put fresh berries on it. You could put a lot of wedding cakes are like this, with a few tiers and then cascading flowers. You could add a few sprinkles, but that kind of takes away from the simple elegance of a naked cake. You could also do a drizzle. So I'm going to show you a drizzle that you can make, just a basic glaze. So in here I have a half a cup of powdered sugar, okay? And I need a tablespoon of milk. I'm just going to scoop that out. I poured a little into a bowl so that I didn't have to have a whole gallon of milk in my thing. And then you want a half a teaspoon of a flavor extract. So since I did a little bit of lemon simple syrup and raspberry, I'm going to do a lemon glaze. So instead of, normally you would add, I'm dripping, normally you would add vanilla, but I'm just going to replace that vanilla with lemon. So a half a teaspoon, oops, I'm a little overzealous here. Ooh, I smell that lemon, it smells so good. And just a little pinch of salt, if you so desire. And now you're just gonna mix this. And obviously you have a lot of powdered sugar in here, so it's a little bit of liquid, so you're like, whoa, what's going on? It turns into an amazing glaze. I will show you this glaze. Actually, I might have to make a little bit more. So if I run out, I'll probably do that off camera and finish the cake. But so anyway, you get this glaze, okay? This glaze you can use anything with it. You can use this on, hey Holly, good to see ya. You can use this on, you could use this on donuts. You could use this on scones. You could use this on quick bread loaves, like a banana bread, or, you know, lemon loaf, blueberry lemon loaf. You could do it on cookies. This is just a basic glaze. And then what you want to do is you just want to gently pour some on the edge of your cake. And then go around and pour some again. And this will set up. You kind of have to work a little quick with this glaze because there's so much sugar in it and not a lot of liquid that it will start to harden. So if you find that it's starting to seize, or not seize, but harden before you can finish through it, you can add a little bit more, just a tiny bit of liquid to it. I just realized I should turn this the other way so that you can see it. So we'll go the other way. Okay. And that just adds a nice elegance. You could color this if you wanted it to be yellow for the lemon, or, you know, you could have pink, you know, blue, green, whatever color you want. You could definitely do any other kinds of color. I'm just sticking with the white just to kind of keep it simple. And then I think I'm going to be able to get through with this, so that's good. So that amount, and if you kind of, you know, if there's a bunch sitting on the top, eventually you can just make a little bit more, spread it on top, and kind of have a smooth surface. Yeah, I have plenty. This easily coats a 6-inch cake, just so you know. I'm guessing it will easily coat an 8-inch cake as well. Obviously, it probably also depends on how many drips you're putting. And then I'm just going to take this. I think next time I will add a little tint to it, just because it is fairly thin and white with all the white. But, you know, for demonstration purposes, right? And then I'm just going to gently smooth this to where I started spooning the glaze. And then you're going to want to let that sit, so you can put it in the fridge and let that sit for, oh, I don't know, probably 20 minutes or so until it sets. And you can keep this cake in the fridge until you're ready to serve it. If you are in a normal environment, you probably want to leave it out for at least an hour before you cut into it, just so that the cake itself isn't super cold. But if you are in a humid environment, like my loved ones down in the islands, heed the humidity and gently bring your cake to room temperature, because if you do it too quick, you're going to get a bunch of air bubbles, which, trust me, are really frustrating when you have a beautiful cake and frosting and then you have air bubbles. Okay. So there's your naked cake. I hope that you can see it is a bit sheer with the drips, but it does add an element of elegance to it. And again, you could put a nice mound of fresh berries, some mint sprigs, things on top. You could put some stuff around the bottom. You could, like I said, you can color your glaze so that it kind of pops from the rest of it. And, you know, basically you can, you know, the options are endless. That's what I love about baking, is that you can come up with so many beautiful ideas. And just as long as you get the basics of the technique, then once you do it, you can add to so much stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Tomorrow we're going to be making scones, which I'm super pumped about. I love scones. Love, 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 love scones. And I love the scones that I make because, I don't know, they're the ones that I found that are the best flavor for my profile that I like. And I got the recipe years ago from one of my favorite cooking magazines, and I just always use it. So we're going to make scones tomorrow. I posted the recipe on my stories on Instagram as well as on Facebook and on my Facebook page. And what else? Thursday we're going to be decorating cupcakes. So if you've got some cake mix laying around, or you can use yesterday's vanilla cake recipe and whip those up into cupcakes, by all means. We're going to be decorating. That might be a real fun one for kiddos that are just kind of needing a little bit of distraction. Pumpkin bread. Ooh, pumpkin bread. Maybe we'll do pumpkin bread next week. That's a good idea. And then Friday we're going to finish the week off with cookies. And I'm still trying to figure out which one I want to do, but I've got some ideas, and not just your typical chocolate chip. So do something a little bit different, although I understand too that right now kind of ingredients are a little, that's why I'm trying to weigh the options, but I know ingredients are a little hard to come by. So, but yeah, but thank you guys so much. I love doing these. These are so much fun. I am having a blast doing it. I feel like you guys are all with me in the room when I do it, which is great during this period of isolation. So I hope you guys are out there safe and healthy, and I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow at 11 a.m.